What, you don't know me?
Hell no. Yeah.
Hey, I think that's a little...
On June the 19th of 2025, emergency services responded to a unit in Port Lincoln, Australia, after a neighbor reported smoke and a small fire. When first responders entered the property, they found human remains in the bathroom that were severely burnt and disfigured. Officers later revealed that the male victim, who was identified as 39-year-old Julian Story, had been decapitated. Shortly after the body's discovery, 34-year-old Tamika Chesser was found in the rear yard in a catatonic and unresponsive state. She was arrested for Story's murder and for interfering with human remains to pervert the course of justice. The authorities reported that they were in a relationship at the time, but a reason for the killing wasn't disclosed and no additional details were provided. It was believed to have occurred at around midnight on June the 17th. The neighbor who'd raised the alarm reported that he tried to put out the fire himself using a water bucket. Moments prior, he'd seen Chesser and asked what she was doing, to which she replied, "Nothing." She then took her dogs for a walk and locked the front door. Chesser was a former cocktail waitress who, at the age of 19, had appeared on the 2010 reality series Beauty and the Geek. In the wake of her arrest, she was taken to James Nash House, a psychiatric facility in Adelaide. In July, she appeared in court via video link sporting a shaved head. Detective Superintendent Darren Fielker said that at the time of her court appearance, Story's head had not been located. Police appealed to the local community for CCTV or dashcam footage showing Chesser's movements between midnight on June the 17th and the afternoon of June the 19th as they sought to reconstruct the timeline. Chesser also faced separate allegations of assaulting a police officer the day after her arrest and unrelated charges of assault and disorderly behavior. On June the 27th, a suppression order protecting Chesser's identity was lifted and the police released still images and footage that showed her clothed in black, including a headscarf and full body coverings. She was carrying a bag and walking on Port Lincoln streets shortly after the estimated time of the killing. Chesser was due to reappear in court in December. On July the 31st of 2025, a dog walker found a skull in scrubland known locally as a slipway scrub. Investigators and preliminary inquiries and phone checks with the Forensic Science Centre indicated the skull was that of Julian Story. It was to be sent to Adelaide for forensic testing and the case was ongoing as of the latest updates. Number 11. Ryan Pearl. In late July of 2025, celebrity hairstylist Ryan Pearl was arrested in Coconut Grove, Miami, after the authorities learned that he planned to meet a teenage girl and have intimate relations. According to Hair.com, Pearl was responsible for some of the most stunning, vibrant salon hair colors to grace celebrity Instagram selfies and award show red carpet appearances. His clients included Hailey Bieber, Halsey, and Sophie Turner. On July the 26th, the girl's mother raised the alarm with law enforcement after she noticed suspicious transactions on the teen's Apple Wallet and inappropriate exchanges between her and the stylist. The communication started after she'd gone to him as a client 2 years prior, when she was in her early teens. Detectives took possession of the girl's phone and had controlled conversations with Pearl, during the course of which he sent a photo of himself fully nude on a couch. A detective posing as the girl told him that she'd never had intercourse before, highlighting, "Explain things to me. I only know things from my friends when they talk." The undercover officer and Pearl made plans to meet the following day to have relations. When Pearl arrived at the agreed-upon location on S. Bayshore Drive, he was taken into custody. A search of his vehicle produced contraceptive devices, vapes, and a baggie of pink cocaine. The stylist's charges included harmful electronic transmissions to a minor, contributing to the delinquency of a minor and cocaine possession. Number 10. Rhys Herbert. British rapper Digger D, real name Rhys Herbert, was arrested during a Metropolitan Police raid on his home in Bracebridge Heath near Lincoln on February the 21st of 2024. Herbert was considered a pioneer of the UK drill rap scene. 4 of his mixtapes charted on the UK album chart. The third, Naughty by Nature, was released in 2022 and debuted at number 1. His videos attracted the attention of law enforcement and he was handed a criminal behavior order after it was deemed that his music was used specifically to goad, to incite, to provoke, to inflame, and that it would inevitably lead to acts of very serious violence. It would emerge that Herbert was also heavily involved in the supply and distribution of commercial quantities of cannabis. During the February raid on his home, the 24-year-old was recording on Instagram Live. Before the broadcast cut off, he was seen shouting at officers and then asked to leave the house with his hands up. Herbert was arrested on suspicion of selling drugs. He eventually admitted importing 3.6 kilos of cannabis and of supplying it to his social circle, but the prosecution didn't accept the basis of his plea, contending that the quantity he'd handled was considerably larger. In December of 2024, the matter was addressed during a Newton hearing, a legal procedure in which a judge alone, without a jury, considers conflicting evidence and ascertains which of the two sides is in the right. The conclusion was that Herbert had indeed been involved in a larger operation. On January the 31st of 2025, he was sentenced to 3 years and 11 months in prison for supplying 45 kilograms of cannabis. Number 9. Amaris Sampson. On the afternoon of August the 9th of 2025, Amaris Sampson, a popular kick streamer who went by Xena the Witch, was taking part in a $30,000 scavenger hunt organized by streamer Ice Poseidon in Austin, Texas. Live footage showed Sampson intentionally shooting a paintball gun at a bikini-clad woman who wasn't involved in the event. Another streamer told Sampson, "That's a real worker you almost shot at," to which the woman replied, "I don't give a F." Streamer Benny Mac followed up with the victim and their interaction was recorded. He approached her as she was standing on a paddleboard and told her that he was trying to get evidence. The woman, who was furious, exhibited redness and swelling on her left thigh. She was then asked if she was okay by one of the participants, who also told her, "Amaris Sampson, she's the one who shot you." Sampson was arrested and faced charges of assault with bodily injury and deadly conduct, both Class A misdemeanors. She displayed similarly deranged behavior during past live streams. Incidents included having her cameraman steal an Uber driver's phone and urinating out of her room window in a bid to gain more viewers. In light of her August arrest, many commenters condemned her actions, with one of them writing, "Clout chasing by these streamers is going to start actually getting people hurt and maybe even wiped out." Number 8. James Argent. In May of 2025, James Argent, a former star of the hit reality series The Only Way is Essex, was arrested for violence against his girlfriend, Swedish beauty queen Nicoline Artuson, after casually meeting in a supermarket and dating for about 9 months. The couple were on a romantic getaway to Mijas on Spain's Costa del Sol. They were pictured together on the beach on May the 2nd. Days later, however, during an unspecified argument, 37-year-old Argent forced a model out the front door of their accommodation. Artuson, who won Miss World Sweden in 2011, tumbled down steps outside the home and her screams alerted neighbors, who called the police. She wasn't believed to have been seriously injured in the incident. Argent was arrested shortly thereafter and he subsequently admitted a domestic violence charge. At a court in Fuengirola, it resulted in him being handed a 6-month suspended sentence and a 2-year restraining order. Argent, whose relationship with Artuson ended in the incident's wake, was also ordered to complete a course on gender violence. Number 7. Mingus Reedus. 25-year-old Mingus Reedus, son of The Walking Dead star Norman Reedus and former Victoria's Secret model Helena Christensen, was arrested by the NYPD on August 23rd of 2025 for attacking his girlfriend at the apartment they shared in Manhattan. Reedus flashed a wide smile as he was led away in handcuffs from the 10th precinct on West 20th Street when a reporter said, "Tell us what really happened." Reedus grinned, chuckled and replied, "No." He then claimed it was a misunderstanding as officers shut the door on him. Reedus, a successful model who'd previously been featured on the cover of Vogue Hommes, was reported to have gotten into an argument with his unnamed 33-year-old girlfriend. It devolved into a physical altercation during which Reedus allegedly choked her so hard that he lifted her off the ground. He was also reported to have punched and kicked the victim. One of them, it remained unclear who, then called 911. Reedus was arraigned on August 23rd on charges of third-degree assault, obstruction of breathing, aggravated harassment, reckless physical injury, and second-degree harassment. Reedus pleaded not guilty and claimed that he was trying to prevent the woman from taking a bunch of sleeping pills after he'd ended the relationship with her. As he left court, Reedus insulted a New York Post reporter by calling her ugly. The most recent incident wasn't the troubled model's first run-in with the law. In 2021, he was arrested at the San Gennaro Festival in Manhattan's Little Italy after allegedly punching a woman. Reedus claimed that the woman, whom he didn't know, and her friends were under the influence and looking for a fight. The victim was taken to the hospital with a cut under her left eye, but Reedus maintained that he'd only raised his arm to protect himself. In March of 2022, he pleaded guilty to disorderly conduct and was consequently required to stay out of trouble for a year and undergo at least 5 counseling sessions. Number 6. Whitney Purvis. Whitney Purvis achieved moderate fame after she was featured on MTV's 2009 documentary series 16 and Pregnant. The show presented the stories of struggles of teenagers who were expectant parents. Purvis's episode followed her and her then-boyfriend Weston Lewis Gosa as they tried to balance schooling, financial difficulties, and her moving out of her grandmother's home. Purvis gave birth to her son Weston Jr. in April of 2009. Things would take a dramatic turn for the worse for Purvis in the years that followed. On June the 2nd of 2025, she announced on social media that Weston Jr. had passed away. Purvis wrote on Facebook, "Life is so cruel and unfair. I just don't understand. My baby is gone, and I don't know what to do with myself." A little over a month later, the 33-year-old was arrested in Floyd County, Georgia, and charged with involuntary manslaughter for the overdose death of 37-year-old John Harris. On July the 7th of 2025, Purvis was taken into custody for the aforementioned charge, as well as for multiple drug-related crimes including delivering, distributing, administering, selling, or possessing with intent to distribute a controlled substance. Purvis was reported to have intentionally distributed a substance called Tranq, a mixture of fentanyl and xylazine, an animal tranquilizer, to Harris. She was thus considered to be directly responsible for his death. As of the latest updates, a judge allowed Purvis to return to her house after 14 days in custody, and her case was ongoing. She had to comply with a 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. curfew, make no contact with Harris's family, and abide by strict monitoring for drugs or alcohol. Number 5. Morgan Burtwistle, Charlie Clark, and Samuel Imie. On July the 4th of 2025, 3 influencers were arrested at England's Silverstone circuit after allegedly causing thousands of pounds worth of damage to a Formula 1 car that was on display. At the time, Morgan Burtwistle, also known as Angry Ginge, was live streaming the 2025 British Grand Prix and was joined by fellow streamers Charlie Chazza Clark and Samuel Samham Imie. At some point, the men, all of whom were in their 20s, came upon a Racing Point RP19 that was unguarded by security. In the moments that followed, Clark squeezed halfway into the vehicle's cockpit and posed for photos with 2 thumbs up. In doing so, he caused unspecified damage to the vehicle. He and the others were arrested shortly thereafter. During a subsequent vlog, Burtwistle claimed that they were detained by Northamptonshire police for 15 hours, telling his followers, "I'm genuinely traumatized." The trio were ultimately released without charge but banned from attending the rest of the Grand Prix. Number 4. Alexander Westwood. In February of 2025, actor Alexander Westwood was jailed for over 15 years at Wolverhampton Crown Court after leading a campaign of predatory behavior that produced 5 victims, 4 of whom were underage. Westwood was a minor himself at the time of some of the offenses. The 24-year-old had appeared on 17 episodes of Netflix education series, and the impressionable victims had come to him seeking advice and to be trained as actors. Westwood used that position to abuse them. One of the victims, a teenage girl, was forced to act out the most inappropriate scenes, while another teen was systematically abused. The latter victim's ordeal took place between November of 2020 and September of 2021, while she was a drama school student. Prosecutor Andrew Wallace said she had ambitions to be an actress. She arranged lessons with him, and over the course of time, the defendant was able to do the most despicable acts with her. It was reported that Westwood touched her, touched himself, and forced himself on her. Whenever he was opposed or questioned, Westwood would reportedly reply, "Do what your teacher says. Do you trust me?" When she threatened to give up on the lessons, Westwood tried to tie her into a contract for 365 lessons. If broken, it would result in her paying him as much as £18,000 or £36,000. The contract was described as a coercive tool used by the actor so that he could continue abusing the victim. He also tried to gain her compliance by threatening to talk to her principal. His predatory behavior towards a second victim overlapped, taking place between May and August of 2021. 2 younger victims were incited to engage in intimate activity, touched, and made to watch adult videos. The prosecution said that one of them, with whom Westwood had interacted from 2010 to 2018, was subjected to an extraordinary catalogue of abuse that happened hundreds of times. Westwood was sentenced on 26 counts, 11 of which were cut in half because he was a minor at the time of his offending. The sentencing judge noted that the abuse had devastating consequences for the 5 victims, adding that the actor had displayed a seemingly nonchalant attitude that bordered on arrogance. Number 3. Duke the Dumpster, Droese. On May the 5th of 2025, a former WWE wrestler was arrested in Tennessee for using cryptocurrency in an attempt to buy explicit material involving minors on the dark web. In the 1990s, Duke Droese had wrestled for the World Wrestling Federation, which became the WWE. He performed as a garbage man who carried a trash can to the ring and was nicknamed the Dumpster. After retiring from wrestling, he worked as a special education teacher at Centertown Elementary School in McMinnville, Tennessee, where he was also the strength coach. He resigned from that position in 2013 after he was caught trying to sell buprenorphine and oxycodone to an undercover agent. He was fined $2,000 and spent a month of a 3-year sentence behind bars. On April the 21st of 2024, Droese had used his Coinbase account in an attempt to buy content depicting the assault of minors. Coinbase flagged the transaction, terminated it, and alerted the FBI. An investigation was launched and it culminated with the arrest of 56-year-old Droese. He posted a $10,000 bond, was released, and was expected back in court in late May. If convicted, he faces 2 to 4 years in prison.
As always, thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe, and maybe it will be your video that we'll be doing next.
Number 2. Michael Pitt. Hollywood actor Michael Carmen Pitt was arrested in early May of 2025 in Brooklyn, NYC, for violence and abuse against a former partner. While less prominent in recent years, Pitt was known for his role in movies like The Dreamers, Funny Games, and Murder by Numbers, as well as TV appearances in Boardwalk Empire and Hannibal. The alleged attacks listed in the 9-count indictment occurred between April of 2020 and August of 2021. They involved multiple instances of him forcibly touching his unidentified former girlfriend, as well as battering her. According to the indictment, he strangled the unidentified woman in August of 2021, and 2 months earlier, he threw a cinder block at her foot. In August of the previous year, he was reported to have battered her with a 4x4 piece of wood. Pitt's charges included multiple counts pertaining to abuse of an intimate nature, as well as second-degree strangulation and 2 counts of second-degree attempted assault. As of the latest updates, Pitt was released on a $100,000 bail and vehemently denied the accusations, with his lawyer describing them as the uncorroborated word of an unhinged individual. In July of 2025, a series of text screenshots dating back to April of 2021 and allegedly authored by Pitt's accuser were presented in court. She'd messaged a friend and claimed that she'd lied about being assaulted by Pitt because she always flirted with the idea of forcible abuse, as she never actually experienced it. The woman also admitted to making up other lies about Pitt to intentionally make him jealous or destroy his personal and working relationships. She additionally recounted an incident of her being violent with Pitt, writing, "When I went to the hospital, what I didn't tell you is that Michael couldn't walk for 2 weeks because of what I did." According to the latest information available on the case, the conditions of Pitt's bail were loosened, his passport was returned, and he was planning on traveling to Paris for work. Number 1. Raja Jackson.
What, you don't know me?
Hell no. Yeah.
Hey, I think that's a little...
In August of 2025, Raja Jackson, son of mixed martial arts legend and former UFC light heavyweight Quinton Rampage Jackson, was attending a private pro wrestling event at the Knox Pro Academy in Los Angeles. 25-year-old Raja, who was an MMA fighter, had been invited to the show by his friend AJ Manna, who wrestled for the show. Raja was live streaming on Kick while he was backstage meeting the performers. At some point, he was approached by 44-year-old Stuart Smith, a pro wrestler, who performed as Psycho Stu. Since Raja had a cameraman with him, Stuart incorrectly assumed that he was a pro wrestler and that he was there to set up a storyline that would later play out in the ring. Creating such narratives was commonplace for pro wrestling since the shows were heavily scripted. As Raja was talking to a group of performers, Stuart blindsided him and struck him in the side of the head with a beer can. Raja would later state that it was a real can and not a prop. The young MMA fighter was still recovering from a concussion at the time, and earlier in the stream, he told a viewer who'd asked how his head felt that he was still effed up and that he'd been throwing up. After the can strike, Raja squared up to Stewart, shoved him and threatened him. Other wrestlers intervened and defused the situation, telling Stewart that Raja wasn't a worker and thus not part of any storyline. In the moments that followed, Stewart apologized and twice tried to shake Raja's hand but was declined. Raja's anger seemed to subside. He accepted the apology and shook the wrestler's hand, but only after someone suggested that he could interrupt Stewart's incoming match and give him his receipt then. It was supposed to be a staged performance in which Raja would take Stewart down and land some punches on him. AJ reminded those present that Raja was Rampage's son and that they risked provoking the MMA great, but the young fighter replied, "I can handle myself." As Raja and AJ walked away, the latter condemned Stewart's behavior and appeared to encourage Raja to hurt him for real during the match. The young fighter agreed and responded, "As long as I get my lick back, I'm straight." Rampage was also live streaming at the time, and he found out through his chat about the events taking place on his son's stream. Rampage called Raja during the wrestling show and asked him, "Did you get jumped by a bunch of dudes in tights?" Rampage continued, poking fun at Raja, telling him, "I thought you had a baby oil show." The father and son had created content together before, and such banter was routine and by most accounts enjoyed by viewers. However, Rampage was unaware that Raja's rage was gradually building up. It was further fueled when he began to read his chat, in which viewers were calling him a fake crash out, a pushover, and remarking that he was constantly disrespected wherever he went. Raja, who'd only live streamed a handful of times before, appeared to take the comments to heart. He began telling his chat that he was going to hurt Stewart for real, yelling, "People think this is a game." Not long afterwards, Raja was given the signal to enter the ring. He climbed through the ropes after Stewart landed a move on another wrestler. The MMA fighter grabbed the much larger wrestler from behind, lifted him in on his shoulder and slammed him full force on the canvas. The slam appeared to knock Stewart out cold. In the moments that followed, Raja mounted him and began to punch him in the face with vicious intent. As seen in the harrowing footage of the incident, the unconscious wrestler's head bounced off the canvas with each strike. Given that it was supposed to be a scripted moment, there appeared to be some confusion as to what was really happening, and no one immediately intervened. Raja landed at least 20 devastating blows to Stewart's face and was gearing up to throw more before another wrestler, Douglas Mallow, slid into the ring. Screams echoed through the video as the crowd, in which children were present, realized that the beatdown wasn't scripted. Mallow took Raja down, but he sprang back up and they became engaged in a grappling match, during which Mallow was punched as well. More wrestlers intervened and through a combined effort were able to control the crazed fighter. Raja then left the ring and was escorted out of the building. He continued live streaming as he walked down the street and yelled, "I'm tired of everybody playing with me. At the end of the day, I'm going to stand up for myself." In the moments that followed, a shirtless man in face paint, whose association with the wrestling promotion was unclear, appeared to try to bait Raja into coming back, stating, "I just want that viral moment, you feel me?" Raja was seemingly ready to fight, but his cameraman held him back and no further violence occurred. Rampage reacted to the in-ring attack live on his stream and then told a person that was off camera Raja might go to jail. That was bad. According to Mallow, Stewart was left choking on his own blood and shattered teeth, and doctors had to give him CPR at the scene. Mallow also sharply condemned Knox for failing to ensure Stewart's safety by allowing Raja, a volatile MMA fighter, to step in the ring with him, and then also for failing to intervene during the attack. In the incident's wake, Stewart was rushed to a hospital and placed in an induced coma as he'd suffered brain swelling. He lost most of his teeth and suffered extensive facial fractures. Updates from Stewart's family indicated that his condition had stabilized, but that he had little recollection of what had happened to him. Footage of the attack went viral and took both the pro wrestling and the MMA world by storm, causing widespread outrage, particularly when it was revealed that Stewart was a US Army veteran who turned to pro wrestling as a way of dealing with his PTSD. As of August the 25th of 2025, Raja didn't publicly comment on the attack, and it was still investigated by the authorities, but there were grounds for him to be charged with attempted murder. Rampage publicly stated it was bad judgment and a work that went wrong. Raja is an MMA fighter, not a pro wrestler, and had no business being involved in an event like this. I don't condone my son's actions at all. Rampage apologized in Raja's name and expressed hopes for Stewart's speedy recovery. Thanks for watching. Would you rather take a prime Mike Tyson beatdown or have your search history revealed as headline news? Let us know in the comments section below.